Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 86 of Social Harmony, where today I'm joined by Becky Farrar. She's a fellow Northerner and an absolute powerhouse. I'm sure you'll pick up from the episode. Her energy and her drive is just infectious. The way that she approaches things, to me, I I honestly, I would love a dash of that in my daily life. I like to think I've come on a bit myself, but yeah, Becky's just next level. And hearing her story from how, as a kid, she had a dream and she worked towards it and she put in the hours and she was really striving for it. But then COVID hit, and like with many of us, it sort of forced us into a different area. But as Becky discusses, it probably came along at the right time for her. She was burning the candle at both ends. She was 100 miles an hour in danger of burning out, but it forced her to stop and take stock and take a look around and, I suppose, assess what she needed to do to get where she wanted to be and look more closely at the fear that keeps us stuck where we are, that keeps us with these limiting beliefs. And she's actually turned that into a model that she teaches others that just, I find amazing in that it's simple to get your head around, but so very relevant in all areas. So without further ado, I'll get out of the way. I'll let Becky take centre stage. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, back once again for episode 86 of Social Harmony, where today I'm joined by, another Northerner. So, Becky Farrar, welcome to the show. And please, who are you? Tell us about you.
So I am Becky Farrar, and I am a identity and self leadership speaker. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
It says
Basically, what that basically what that means is that my passion is about supporting people to grow from the inside out through who they are, the actions that they have, the belief systems that they have, and self leadership in themselves through their life, making decisions that align with the direction that they want to go in. And making choices that align with the life that they want to create.
Okay. Alrighty, so what, like a wallflower to wildflower kind of thing, and just a bit self-directed, or what? How does it look? What? Yeah, that just sounds like a lot. Like you said, it's a mouthful, but there's a lot of stuff in there to unpack. So, can you take us right back to square one, and what does it look like?
So, square one for me with my story definitely started as an 18-year-old. I went off to dance college at 18 and I really wanted to be a professional dancer. I'd danced my whole entire life. I was good at it, I was talented at it, I was capable at it. And I was so excited to embark on oh my gosh, the West End awaits me after, these 3 years of training. And within 3 months of dance college, I'd actually left. Now, I didn't know and understand all what was going on at the time, because ultimately we only understand and we can join the dots afterwards.
Yeah.
But once I got to dance college, I experienced self-doubt in a way that I'd never experienced it before. I'd always been quite a confident child, quite a capable child. I was a high achiever both at school and dance.
Yeah.
And not necessarily overly challenged either. So things, just whatever I seemed to try, I was always quite good at it. I was always naturally quite competitive as well, whether it be even just going bowling with the family. I always wanted to do the best job.
Yeah.
But self-doubt got really big, comparison got kind of really big. I just looked around at all these amazing people and for probably the first time that I like really remember it, I was just like, I'm not good enough to be here. Like, I'm not good enough. And I'd never really had that feeling, and I didn't know what to do with it other than just to go, I can't be here. Now, knowing what I now know, ultimately I was on the cusp of an identity expansion, because ultimately in order for us to be able to grow, we have to experience things that are going to support that growth. So we can only become stronger by going through experiences that are going to give us strength. We can only be braver by going through experiences that are going to give us courage.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that at the time. I didn't see all of these people as, oh gosh, I can be inspired by them. I can look up to them. I can be like them. I didn't have the knowledge of the mindset. And so, look, once I then, which I'll get to in a minute, like a few years down the line, sort of started on personal development, that's when I was able to go, oh, hang on a minute, like that was never a capability issue. It was never a potential issue. It was never a possibility. It was a mindset issue. See, because ultimately we can see,
I can relate a lot to this. I mean, I was similar. I was reading something the other day, and it was about, were you always the kid who didn't study, but you aced the tests and you did the things? And that was me. But then I got to a point where, similar to like you're saying then, I just didn't think I were good enough. And I really sort of pulled back, and I turned into that kid, the kid that messes around rather than does at school, because it's easy, or it's easier to act the clown. And I'm not setting myself up for the disappointment of failure. I was too frightened of that. And I think, like you rightly said then, rather than looking at people who were doing better than me and thinking, maybe I can pick up something from them, what are they doing that I'm not? I didn't. I just pulled back. It wasn't until much later in life that I turned it around, not through anything subconsciously or consciously really, but just in age. But sorry, carry on. You were telling us. I'm just, like you're talking then, I'm just nodding along. I know what you're saying.
And I think it's really common though, because I think if things have always been natural to you, like that's your natural way of being. So then when something comes in that is different to that, it just throws us into this questioning. So I consciously made the decision to become a dance teacher because I basically wasn't ready to leave that world behind. I was like, well, to me, dance was like going to be my life. But I do remember thinking, I want to ensure that what I teach gives kids the skills that I believe I didn't have. So I then did go into teaching feeling very conscious of, I will remind them that when they're going through challenge, it's because this is going to support their growth. And it's okay to feel that they might not be able to do something, but it's understanding why that's coming up. And that's how I started my teaching career. And I was very conscious at the time as well, and very intentional with the fact that I wanted my dance school not just about kids that wanted to be dancers. So I'm a believer that children's hobbies and the experiences that they get exposed to have such importance in supporting and shaping the way that they kind of like grow. So I always sort of said, I want kids to be the star of their own show, whatever stage they step onto. Because I just think that how they think. And I think if we learn it from being younger, our limiting beliefs and things, or our conditioning that we have as adults, we've picked it up from being younger. So if we learn the positive things from being younger, that just becomes part of our identity, which kind of leads into what I do now. It just becomes part of who we are. So I started my own dance school at the age of 19. And I just started off doing a few classes and then built it up and just created it around values. I worked for a sports company for a short time and then decided to kind of take it on my own. And it was called Strive. And I loved the name of that because it just always, to me, kind of like represented just progression, just moving forward, evolving, and not in a constant pushing kind of way, but just a strive to be the best version of you. So it was built on values. So we had self-belief, togetherness, resilience, individuality, visualize success and enthusiasm. And I always just believed that if all of these children had all of these values and these experiences, then they would be equipped from a mindset point of view to be able to kind of go out into the world and to be able to navigate the self-doubt and the challenges very differently to what I did. And that's how it started. And then as things grow, I had ambition then to open my own facility, which I did. I saved up for 4 years for that, and opened in January 2020, which
gutted.
So I'd invested thousands of pounds into this facility. It's a beautiful facility that we still have now. And then obviously COVID came along and closed it. And it's so interesting because that was a real big turning point for me. I think COVID was a turning point for a lot of people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And bearing in mind, I'd spent 4 years saving up to open this studio. It was my absolute dream. I couldn't wait to have it. And when it was closed, I didn't miss the dance side.
Okay.
And I was like, fuck, now what? I'm not missing this thing that I'd spent so much pouring my energy into. But what I did
building
miss was
a lot of your personality around. No, that like I said, that's been you for such a long time.
Yeah, there was at that point, for actually such a long time, there was no separation between me and my business. My business was wholeheartedly like a part of me. Yeah. I'll also say that didn't always serve me very well.
How so?
But again, we don't know. Oh, what, sorry?
How so? How did it not serve you? What do you mean?
It didn't serve me very well because there were things like, let's say somebody left. I would take that so personally. Right. I was so hard on myself when I was built. And I always believe that all of our things that we have got pluses and negatives. So I've always been, not anymore, but I was such a perfectionist. And that's amazing because it meant I'd got attention to detail and I was conscientious. But the flip side of that would be that I would be ridiculously hard on myself. I would overthink a lot of things. I would self-punish myself a lot. So it's just really important. And I say this now with everything's a balance. There is no good or bad. It's how we take certain aspects of it and utilise it, because we want to be able to find that middle ground, which is really difficult. Yeah. But yeah, it literally dance from being tiny had been my whole life, my whole identity. But I also, during COVID, I had this inner calm that everything was going to be okay. So whilst there was a lot of uncertainty going on externally, I also made the decision not to do online classes because I felt like also, which could probably be because the studio was a big renovation, it'd take a long time. All of a sudden, when it closed, I just felt this bit of a lift. I felt this lift and this release that I'd never experienced. I felt like I'd got a mind that started to slow down. And I was like, I've never experienced this. Because for me, being so go all the time, being so on, living in my head, that's all I'd ever known. So that was a normal thing for me until it wasn't there. And then I was like, oh my God, is this what normal people's brains feel like? I found it, even when I was off work, I wasn't off. I was not always present with my family because I was always thinking about the next thing in the business and how I could grow and how I could progress and how I could develop. And as I say, these are all fantastic traits if they are controlled. Yeah. But I didn't almost realise that they weren't until kind of I knew that they weren't sort of thing. But in COVID, I did miss the connection and I found myself wanting to and I did send emails, reassuring people and almost sending motivational stuff. And I was like, gosh, it was it's the connection bit. And because the busy mind needed some form of busyness during COVID, I actually trained to be a life coach. Okay. I'd kind of mentioned it along the years and I was like, I think that would suit me. And I loved the learning about it. I loved learning all about the brain and I loved learning all about our belief systems and our conditionings, and training to do life coaching actually taught me so much about myself, because it was at that point where I really started to learn, oh my gosh, this is what I do, but I can change that. Oh my gosh, I see myself doing that. Oh gosh. And it just felt like all of this stuff that I was like, So, okay, I'm learning it now to help others, but it was the biggest gift to myself that I think I've probably ever experienced.
I did the same because I used to be a chef, but then I retrained as a social worker. Same thing. You're doing all the psych papers and all the. Oh wow, this is me. I don't know. You're looking at, say, attachment theory or whatever it is, and you're reading into it and you're going down these rabbit holes of stuff, and all these little light bulbs going off all the time. So yeah, again, I can relate to what you're saying. I mean,
yeah.
Can I just ask as well? It sounds like COVID, it probably came along and did you a favour because you were probably headed for burnout. Would that be a thing?
I've said it came at the right time for me because like it had been such an intense time, like up to get in the studio. I think that interjection was needed because I think it otherwise could have just completely and utterly. Because obviously when you take on a premises, that does increase responsibility. There's now, we're not just turning up and hiring a room. There's a full-blown facility there to kind of run and to do and be responsible of, and all these things that I didn't have like before. But yeah, it definitely interjected what I potentially think could have continued to spiral in a way that then it took over kind of me and my life even more than kind of what it did. Because up until that point, like when I say that like I never switched off, it's not like it was a problem for me. Like my husband was like, I can't believe that you just think about it all the time. And I'm like, I know, but I love it.
But
like,
that's
and
just how you function kind of thing.
That is, that is just kind of, how it was.
Yeah.
But then I really liked doing the training in it. And then, COVID reopened and I went back. And I actually did go back very differently because even though I'd always been about the personal development side, once you've had something taken away, you do appreciate it so much more when you get it back.
Yeah.
And like, I got so emotional when we like reopened and all these little kids were coming in with their head and their ballet shoes, and the first show that we did, and I was like, oh my gosh, like it just lit me up from the inside out in a way that I couldn't explain. And then I'd been into personal development at this point. I like to read the books and I'd access a few online things. And I did my first like mini mastermind sort of like during COVID alongside the coach. And again, I really liked one of my favourite kind of things that I remember doing. We had to do a new woman walk. And she just said, just go out round your streets and just embody the version of who you want to be like in the future. And I still remember like doing that, like walking around. And like at that point, I was like walking around as someone who did have space in her head, who felt like it was like okay to go out on a walk and not think about work. Because even back in the early days, like, I started to do things like I'll take myself to the gym. But even when I was in the gym, I felt like I should have been at home working. And that was only a belief system. But I knew it was there, but I didn't know how to unpick it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, so that was my first taster. And then in 2022, I joined a mastermind and I was in Birmingham and we had to do a meditation. Now, I am a spiritual being. Spirituality definitely supported me during COVID because I was very much like, everything happens for a reason. Everything's going to be okay. Things happen for us, like not to us, blah, 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 blah. But we're doing this meditation and it was about our future. And we were visualizing certain things and writing things down. And when we sort of came back around and I like looked at what I'd wrote, like it didn't represent the life that I was like currently living. And that was both incredibly exciting and really frightening all at the same time, because I was like, I believe that was part of my soul. Like that's my truth. That's what I believe in, that when we get these feelings or these intuitions with stuff. But then obviously the reality is, hang on a minute, like I only opened a studio 2 years ago. Like I've spent however many years building this up and never saw myself doing anything other than being a dance teacher. Now what? Like now what?
Yeah.
And I rang my husband on the way home from Birmingham. I rang the girl that worked for me at the time and just sobbing because I didn't know what to do with this information. But then because I was on the mastermind, I was like, no, it's okay. I can step forward and I can do more coaching things, and I can, because that's what it's always been about for me, supporting people to connect and to strengthen who they are from the inside out. So within the studio, I use dance to do that, but I was like, yes, I'd love to do coaching and this, that and the other and what have you. One of the things actually on there, which I hadn't actually shared this with anyone recently, but I thought I'm just going to put it out there now.
Right.
One of my big things that I'd love to be able to do is to input more personal development into education system. So that went on my little kind of write-up. I'd love to have input in supporting changing the education system to where kids from such an early age learn more about themselves. Because I think it's all right pumping loads of information, but I think the biggest education that we can ever have is who we are and how we work and how we function. Like, I think that's the biggest kind of thing for
are you talking about sort of maybe programs in schools and things like that working with kids? Because this is when I was reading something like, you know, everyone's freaking out about AI taking everybody's jobs. I was reading something else, another article, and it was saying going forward, the new skills are going to be the EI kind of skills, the emotional intelligence, the way we connect and communicate with each other. That's going to be what more and more businesses will be looking for in the future. Yeah, you'll need still, you know, the academics and you'll need some skills, but there'll be a lot of jobs that computers can just take over. You know, I don't know, it used architecture as an example because a computer program can do a lot of this stuff. And rather than now paying a team of expensive and skilled people, you pay somebody who's good with a program, and there it is. But it's these, you're still going to need people to you know, do certain jobs, and it's going to be the, like you said, the connection that's going to push us forward. So I love that.
I completely agree with that. And like, there's a lot of discussion around like AI now, but like for me, I really like it. Like what it does for me, it quickens my process of things. So it doesn't, like it can't think creatively. Like it's still, to me, it's like having an assistant, you know, but I've got like my daughter's at secondary school at the minute, and there are some teachers where like it's okay, and there are some teachers that are like, oh, it's cheating, and I'm like, cheating for what? Like it's part of the world now. That's like saying years ago, oh, it's cheating if you put your plates in the dishwasher. Like that's part of what's evolved. Like, and I think that, but I agree with you, like there are certain things that you cannot get from like humans and belonging and going, you know, when you said about academics, yes, okay, to a certain degree, like, you know, people are still saying about English and maths, but there are so many genius, talented, incredibly capable children who do not fit into this educational way because their skill sets and the things that they're here, in my opinion, to do are just beyond this conformative, like, let's memorize all this, you know, type of stuff. I think there's so many ways to learn and to be educated, and there's so many people I think now that have their own businesses who are the ones that didn't kind of, I did conform and fit in. I was like that good girl, like always wanted to, I was top at primary school, I was like top of the class and everything. I did secondary school, you know, top sets, but more lower end of top sets, but ultimately, I then chose something completely different, and I went into dance because that's what lit me up, and that was my passion, you know. And I think, you know, I'd love for children to be able to be taught like how to tap into their intuition from an early age and an early stage, and almost to be allowed to navigate. Like I was an overthinker for like a really long time, and I wouldn't say that I wasn't allowed to make my own decisions when I was younger, but think how much like school or as children, we just have to follow instructions all the time. A lot of the time it kind of, you know, it stifles down. And my mum will still tell a story now. I was about 2 and she'd taken me shopping for a new coat, and she was like, what do you think of this, Rebecca? Because I were Rebecca until I were 11. And I just literally apparently turned around and went, I am not wearing that. Like literally, and she, you know, and she was like, okay, and she did put it back, but there may well be other parents where, like, I didn't like character stuff for my kids when they were younger. So if my son had gone towards like you know, a Toy Story t-shirt, or my daughter had gone towards like a princess something, like inside I was like, oh please, like please no, you know. And but that's not, looking back now, this is even where I've evolved, because that's not my choice to make. That's not my choice to make what they choose. And I think empowering them to make choices gives them the self-leadership and the identity and the confidence to then be able to make those decisions as they get older.
Well, I think as well, because we're in a different world now. That, like, again, back in the day at school, it was very much ABC 1 2 3, and you're not so much learning as more retaining information to pass a test to then do some more of the same. Whereas, I suppose, like the world, the way it is now, is very much different. And that sort of thinking, I suppose, it doesn't really engender anything. And you look how competitive it is now in jobs, in university, in what have you. You've got to be doing something that little bit extra. You've got to have that little individual spark or whatever. That I think you just can't teach from a book. It's got to. There's got to be that, like, epiphany, that inspiration or whatever. I don't know. So, no, I totally agree with you on that. I love that.
Yeah, just to explore like the curiosity, and like when you're saying about like passing things in all of the things that I teach, whether I go into schools now, whether I'm working individuals with people, whether I'm doing a workshop or like wellbeing stuff, one of the things that I am an advocate for is the process over the outcome, because I think in life we are conditioned to it be about the outcome and the result and what this is. And actually the most important bit is the process part of it. Like the success is in the action that we're taking on the journey. And there's so many children, and that's one I never did exams within my dance academy, because to me the exams only suited the kids that were really amazing at dancing. Well, I wasn't going to take that away from all of these children who were making incredible progress every time they came into the studio week by week, who then, when they were graded or measured, weren't the same. Like, I just don't agree with it. It's just my thing. And, you know, my son recently he's just failed his driving test for the first time, you know, and he brought up a really good point. He's like, but the thing is, like, I'm just now trying to pass a test. He said, I can drive because my driving instructor wouldn't have put me into the test if I wasn't able to drive. But in that scenario, he, very similar to how I used to be, he finds that scenario quite pressurising. So on that day, it was the situation that he was in that kind of resulted in, you know, not being successful on that particular occasion. But he can drive. And then he had the lesson after, and his driving instructor is like, it's just, you can drive. You can, you know, you can do it. And now we're looking at the reset again, but he's got to wait for that go ahead before somebody can say it. But some children, and not even just children, adults, like there's so many people that do not perform well under pressure. Some people think that they do, but then if you actually took that away and allowed them more freedom of space, actually from a nervous system point of view, we are so much more open to evolving and growing when there is no end measurement, when it's just a case of just doing the thing and being the bee, because our nervous system feels safe doing that. So there is no threat and there is no pressure. So yeah, but then going back to the basically from 2022, I then just basically did the hokey cokey for 3.5 years in my business, between having enough belief to kind of want to do something else, and then basically getting scared and putting a foot back in, and then stepping forward to thinking, I can do this next chapter, to then coming back and going, oh my God, I can't, I've never known anything other than dance. You know, and it literally, it took me 3.5 years to navigate. And it was actually going back to my little spiritual stories, it was January 2025. Now, 6 months before that, I promoted the girl at dance that was like my second in command sort of thing. And I said, right, I'm going to promote you to acting principal. Like, that was kind of a big, like, step up for her. She'd always wanted to have her own dance studio. That made me feel amazing, because I was like fulfilling somebody else's dream at the same time. But I thought, it'll just give me, I'm still there, can still be present. So we had to, I'm a big believer now and a big advocate again for small sustainable change. I think that that's how the nervous system kind of can grasp it, because it's got to feel safe. Like if the body feels any form of unsafety, which comes when anything is unknown, uncertain, unfamiliar, new, we literally just brace. And then that's why so many people drop back into what they've always known, because the unknown and that new thing is so uncomfortable. So I promoted her, and it was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful to see her step up like into this role and her start growing. But then in January 2025, I was like, right, you know, we're now into nearly 3 years since I'd thought about doing something different. And I was like, right, universe, send me a yellow pig. I would like a yellow pig to kind of, you know, give me the little nod, the go ahead, the reassurance that I need in order to be able to navigate this new chapter. 6 months later, I'm still waiting for this yellow pig like to turn up. But I was listening to an audio when I was taking my dog out for a walk, and the audio said, you are one decision away from a completely different life. And I just started sobbing in the country park, because it's like sometimes there's just that one question. And there might be some people now listening to this that have heard me say that, and they know exactly what that means for them. You are one decision away from a completely different life. And I knew what I had to do. So it was like I've just, my whole body, my soul, my intuition was like, it is time for me to close this teaching chapter. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it now. It just feels like that. I was also 40 last year. So I was like, right, you know, 40, I'm having my birthday. I'm having that midlife. Like they say, life begins at 40. Let's just change the chapter. And I spent the summer holidays it's like speaking it into reality. So because Strive closed over the summer, and I was able to say, you know, when I finished teaching, and when I finished teaching, and when I finished teaching. And the more I said it, the more comfortable it felt. And then my body started to accept it like a little bit more. And then went back in September and made the announcement and everything, finished in the November. But I went on holiday, on a girls' holiday to Portugal in the October, and in a gift shop, and I always bring this, there was a little yellow pig.
Wow.
that kind of turned up. And what I love about this story is, and this goes because one of the real big things that I try and support people with is that self-trust. I am actually really glad that the pig didn't turn up before I'd made the decision, because we have to trust ourselves when we're navigating change, when we're going through personal development, when we're going through any form of evolution and growth. We've got to connect with ourselves. That's the biggest thing. So yes, I asked to sign for the universe, or we go and have a conversation with our friends or our family. But actually, even if we go and have a conversation, 9 times out of 10, we know what we think that we want them to say. We just want someone to tell us what we want to hear, because we're almost too scared to make that decision for like ourselves. But over like the past kind of maybe 12 months or so, rather than it being sort of coaching, I then sort of had visions about, right, I want to do global speaking. I want to stand on stages and I want to deliver a message. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I never made it onto like a West End stage to be a dancer, but maybe my destiny and maybe my purpose is to stand on stages and speak. And I finished teaching genuinely with no idea what I was going to do next. Wow. I was like, the only way that I can completely maybe help other people with what I believe, which is life is possible it's possible to create the life that you want. I've got to live it for myself first. And that's exactly kind of where I am right now, because I took a jump out of something, because so many of us want a guarantee. In order to move away from this, we need to know that this is happening. Or because the brain loves safety. It wants safety, it wants to know what's coming.
Can I ask you, just before you took that leap, what did it feel like? Because, like we've said, the dancing and the teaching in the studio, it was such a big part of your identity from being a child. You know, it's been a natural progression up to this point. And so, yeah, we can overthink money, bills, how am I going to pay my mortgage, whatever it is. But there's still that bit of you that you're leaving behind. I suppose, I don't know whether it's you grieving for it or whatever, but it is still.
Oh, I did a lot of grieving.
Yes, it is still saying goodbye to a bit of you, isn't it?
So I'll answer this actually when he said, what did it feel like? The grieving bit I'd already done. Like I'd done so much grieving by this point. But actually, I remember having a conversation with somebody and I said, look, I just want to I want to leave this world making a difference. I want to have left this world making a real impact.
Yeah.
And they said, but by creating what you've created, you've already done that. You don't have to stay there for that legacy to be able to continue. And that were actually a beautiful kind of point. I was like, just because we're the ones that establish something doesn't mean that then it can't continue. And actually, like, the business is still mine. Like, I'm still the business owner, but now I actually get so much joy from seeing the new principal within that role, seeing the other teachers flourish within that role. I loved it when after 6 months I went to go back, in fact 4 months, 5 months, and watch a performance, and I could witness all the growth within these like children. It will always have a part of my heart. I don't have to be in that environment week in, week out for it to still have meaning within my life. And I think that that's the case with the majority of people. Like, we get scared to let go of something because it's like we feel like we have to fully, completely let it go.
Yeah.
And when I got to, I was like, I don't have to completely let this go. I get to choose what bits I get to keep. So like today, for example, like, it's Mental Health Awareness Week this week. So I'm going back into the studio tonight and I'm doing a session for the parents within that studio from a well-being and a mindset perspective. So I get to still be connected and it's still a part of me, but it's just not as big a part as what it was for such a long time. And the unknown, it did take a lot of work. It took a lot of snot and a lot of tears and a lot of sobbing and a lot of inner work when I first finished teaching. But now I see the unknown as exciting because I am just literally being heart-led, like week by week. And basically, I was then offered an opportunity at the end of January to go and take part in an event called Inspire. And I was like, oh, just the name, I'm all over that. Like, yes, like get me in a room like that. I love being in a room with people who want to grow, want to develop, want to learn. And I was offered a short talking section, like a speaking section. Okay. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, thank you, universe. Like, this is my opportunity. And I believe the opportunities come, but sometimes we have to let go to make space for something else to kind of come. And that can be really hard. And I was thinking about what I could deliver. And I just kept thinking about the fear theory just like kept coming into like my head. And being a teacher, I was like, I want to deliver something that's meaningful and impactful through story, but I also want it tangible. I was like, the teacher in me is like, what's the objective? What's the tangible that they're going to be able to take away? Because it's amazing listening to somebody's inspiring story, but so many people go, yeah, but how can I do that? Or what steps can I do in order to do that? So I'd had this like idea floating around with like the fear theory, and then I was going back through some old journals and I found a journal from 2023 and I wrote, Becky Farrar will be known for the fear theory. So then at that point I'm going, oh my God. And I don't even remember so I don't know what meditative state or dream state that was in. So I was like, right, this is what I'm going to go with. And I'd got some notes back from 2023 as to the ideas that I'd have at the time. And I just then created this small framework that is now currently in its infancy and that I'm basically embodying week by week and day by day in everything. But ultimately, it is about supporting people to have a different relationship with fear, because for so many people, like, everybody feels fear. Like, everybody has those moments where they're scared, they're uncertain, and there's lots of feelings that sit underneath fear as well. So the main ones that I focus on are the ones that I've had very well acquainted personal experience with, which is like self-doubt. Self-doubt is a fear response. Overthinking is a fear response. Comparison is a fear response. Earlier on, you mentioned fear of failure. That's, perfectionism. That's a fear response. Procrastination. I'm not too much of a procrastinator, but all of these things, they are all fear responses. And ultimately, fear for everybody, some people call it the ego, whatever it is, it comes up when we start doing something different. And that's why so many people have the desire to make a change. They want to go through that change. They even start to put things in place. This is why so many New Year's resolutions don't stick.
Yeah.
But then the familiarity, the slipping back into routine, because so many of our thoughts that we have are unconscious thoughts. We are literally just so programmed that unless we take the time to interject the thoughts that we're thinking to decide if it's serving the version that we want to be. So in order to create a different life, we have to become a different person. And like one of the big, there's a lot of talk around now about, say, manifestation, and my friend actually said to me this week, she's like, I've always viewed manifestation as something that I want to get. And, but then that makes it away from where we are. Whereas it's about thinking about, but what do I want to achieve, or what do I want to be, but then bringing it back to the who. So then in order to get to this point here, who do I need to be now? What thought processes do I need to have? What habits do I need to have? But even with all of that in mind, the thing that's going to come up again and again and again is fear. And no one likes that, but it's an awful feeling. Like I shared before we went live today, like, I'd never done any podcasts until I started in this new chapter, but each one I do, each one feels more comfortable. Yeah. But the first few, if I'd have stopped in that, like, when that mind is telling me, like, who's going to want to listen to what you've got to say? Why do you think that you're going to be able to share things that are going to be able to help people? Blah, blah. I call that the voice of protection. But we all have it. We all have the mind gremlins, the voice of protection that likes to get involved. And so many people see fear as a stop sign. Oh, I'm scared about this. It's not meant for me. Oh, I'm having self-doubt about this. So that means that I can't do it. And actually, my theory supports people to see it as an opportunity to grow, to reframe it. So it's got a 4-part framework to completely reframe fear. So to recognise it's there, go through the framework, to then basically learn to understand it rather than see it as something. And it'll still feel uncomfortable. I will never say it's never going to feel easy. But even being aware of, I'm feeling like this because of this, actually makes the body and the brain go, oh, there is a reason that I feel like this. That's ultimately then where I am to this point. And when I did the event in January, the fear theory that I shared went down really well. And people were like, I've never heard fear explained like that before. It's really helpful, blah, 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 blah. And I basically put a trademark application in for it. So I was like, right, I'm having it. It's mine. Like I'm claiming it. And I've just continued to roll with it, because I think it's about what I'm saying to you. It's about trusting that inner feeling, trusting that intuition, trusting that whatever we feel drawn towards is because we're capable of being able to do it. There'll be people listening to this now that feel that they want to make a change in their life, or that they want to grow or evolve or develop in some way. Like, to me, that wouldn't be a feeling if it wasn't possible of being able to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's I'd say that's a pretty common thing. And if I can ask you, again, without giving away all your trade secrets and what have you, can you give us a bit of a run through on what it would look like? I mean, because, like you said, fears, like I explain it to my kids and what have you, just how you get better by doing hard things and moving on. It is that challenge. And again, I don't think any of us like to be crap at something. We're not often willing to be shit at it while we learn our craft and things like that. But I always come back to, you don't know what you don't know yet. Yeah. And then it's that mastery, and then it becomes, much like with anything. I mean, I didn't know how to use a knife and fork when I was born, but here we go. So if I could ask you, so how would you look to work with somebody? Just, session 1, right out the boat.
So ultimately, everybody is different. And in terms of the putting the fear theory into practice, it's ultimately F is about focusing on who they want to be. So some people, everyone's version of success is different. And that's one thing that I'm a real advocate for. So I said this the other week and I'll stand by it. Personal development is personal. So what is one person's version of success can look very different to somebody else's. So like for me, the easiest way to explain it is to go through like me using my example and my theory. Cool. So I had this thought of, I really want to be a global speaker. Like this is the thing that I want to do. I want to be a speaker. So my F is, who do I want to be and how do I want to get there? So yes, okay, the fear comes up, but on the other side of that fear, so on the other side of Becky the dance teacher, who do I want to be? Yeah. I want to be a global speaker. Now, there's lots of things that then come underneath that. So that's where there's more spiritual teachings in this. The intuition comes in, journaling on our future self. It's all the visual kind of type stuff, you know. But then we move on to the E. This is the bit where the most amount of work needs to be done. Okay. So the expansion capacity. So E is expansion capacity. And basically, this is the ability to understand and navigate your internal experiences and emotions as you grow. Okay. So that's there's a lot of stuff in that. It's catching our thoughts. It's working with our nervous system. I was put myself forward to go and do a talk at a dance teacher conference back in January. And the message that I got back was, how much experience have you got doing this? And my whole body reacted before my brain did. Because basically I was like, well, I haven't at the moment. But there's I know that I can do it. And I was more than capable. Like I've stood on stages and run shows and run businesses. I can stand up at a conference and do a PowerPoint. But because I was asked the question of something that I'd not done, my body then goes into threat.
You get that
my body then feels panicky.
Reaction, You
get that then the brain goes, oh, you're not going to be able to do this or blah, blah. But I'm always an advocate in being honest. Own where you are at that point in the journey, because I think it's so much more powerful. So I went back and I said, I don't have any experience, but I know that I can do it. Now, I did get rejected from that conference, but I'm like, this is okay, because actually it's not about, going back to what I said, it's not about the outcome of things. I didn't feel disappointed that I'd got rejected from that conference, because I was learning to understand my emotions. My success was the fact that I'd put myself forward for it. Because Becky Farrar, future global speaker, she takes her opportunities. She backs herself. She puts herself forward for something before she's quite ready. So it didn't matter that I didn't get a yes on that occasion. What mattered is what I was aligning myself with, who I want to be in the future. I was believing in the ability that I had to do it. I could recognise all of those feelings when they came up. Oh gosh, I could have got turned around and said, yeah, I've had loads of experience, but I didn't want to, because that doesn't align with me. And I think being connected to ourselves is being honest with that. People say fake it till you make it. I don't agree with that. I agree with embodying a version of you that you want to be, but faking it, to me, the brain and the body just rejects fake, because it's not real. Like we do have to repeat things. So there's a lot involved in expansion capacity, but the main one that I can share today, which most people will identify with, is the voice of protection versus the voice of expansion. So the voice of protection is the one that the thoughts start going that are going to keep you in the identity that you're in. You're not going to be able to do that. All of those thoughts that, why do you think that you're going to be able to do that? Who's going to listen to you? You're not going to be able to change your life. As if you're going to be able to leave a career as a dance teacher and do this thing somewhere else. You're absolutely crazy. People think that you're stupid, and you don't even like showing up on social media either. So how are you going to navigate that? All of this, anything that keeps us doing what we've always done, that's the voice of protection. Once we recognise that it is just a thought, we then have the choice to then go, hang on a minute then, what's my voice of expansion going to say? So my voice of expansion is then going to go, well, why not me? Other people have done it. If it wasn't meant for me, I wouldn't even be feeling this. Well, do you know what? I'd rather try anyway. Actually, my success is in the... So we have the counter argument and the voice of expansion, but most of us don't always get told too much about that voice of expansion. And then, which is the biggest thing, the A is aligned action. So there's two parts to this. So there's either the part where we move. So aligned action is where self-trust and courage meet, and we take that one small step forward. Now, what I also want to say is at this point, fear is still going to be there. I think sometimes people want the fear to disappear before they take the step forward. We have to take it with us. We have to, it's like, you know, you being in the driver's seat and fear can be in the passenger seat, but you're the one that's guiding the direction that you're going. It can still be there, and it still will be there. People think that feeling ready or being ready is like a feeling. One of my biggest things that aligned action that I say is, it's not about feeling ready. Being ready is a decision. Being ready is a decision. The fear will still be there. The doubt will still be there. But if the action that you're taking aligns with the future that you want, it's the right action. So that's the aligned action part in a moving. But I am also a huge advocate for an intentional pause. So also there are times in our life where we can't always be chasing the chase. We can't always be going after the thing. Sometimes we've gone through a period of growth and we've expanded, and we need a period of integration. So sometimes aligned action can be a pause. Sometimes it can be implementing a boundary. Sometimes it can be choosing to rest and recuperate instead of moving forward, because the world is very fast, and I'm one of those people that if I'm in a go, I'm in a go. But I'm also someone that will retreat back, and I love the slower pace of life. You know, intentional pauses and taking that time. And I always say to people, it's a bit like when an iPhone does an iOS upgrade. Like, you can't use the phone. Like, so sometimes people get frustrated if they're like, well, I feel like my intuition's not, you know, I don't really know where to go next. Nowhere. You're trying to force a next step and there isn't one. If there's no immediate, if we're overthinking, oh, I don't really know what's what, just stay. Don't be frightened. Just sit in that space and just be still until it feels then like it's the right time to move, because we do know when it's the right time to move and when it's the right time to be still, but so many people are scared of just actually being still a little bit. And then the R part is reinforcing identity. So ultimately the brain loves repetition. So it's just about repeating the small things, and then through reflections and the repetition that we do, we strengthen and stabilise the version of ourselves that we want to become. So we'll use me with podcasts, for example. You know, the first one that I did, oh my gosh, like it was like my whole body was telling me I was uncomfortable. The thoughts were going crazy, like, because it was something new. But then each one that I've done after, they've become easy. I've learned something from doing every single one. You know, things come up each time. There's always a question that makes me go, oh, I've not been asked that question before. So there's growth in every single one. But in each one that I do, I'm reinforcing the identity of somebody that can turn up and talk on a podcast and deliver a message that's going to help and support people. So I'm strengthening and stabilising the version of myself that is able to do that, and getting closer to the girl in the future that wants to stand on stages around the world and share this framework and share this message and write books. And I'm also okay now with saying all of this and none of it happening. Like, I'm all right with that, because it's the most important thing. Going back to what I said, it's not really whether I achieve it or not. It's about doing the things that I'm doing now again and again and again and again to go after the vision, to fulfill it. And ultimately, I owe a lot to my younger self, because I had a vision to open a dance studio. I had a vision to open my own facility, and I did that. So I know that these things can happen. So I've already got evidence, but it's about moving and being before the evidence turns up. The evidence has to come after. You know, it's a little bit, you know, I know we mentioned school earlier on, but how somebody maybe like revise or studies, you know, throughout, they don't get the evidence of that until like their grade. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes somebody can come out with something and that grade might not have represented that journey, but this is where then I'm like the person controversially that'll go, but don't worry about the grade. If you've done everything that you can within this process, you have then shown that your identity and the way that you lead yourself in life is going to support the next chapter and the next version of you. It doesn't matter really what the outcome was. Who have you become in that process? How have you evolved? How have you grown? Have you built that belief, that resilience, the courage? And again, going back to one of the other things with confidence, people like to feel confident in life. Confidence is not a personality trait. Confidence is a feeling, and we can only become confident by actually being courageous.
Yeah, no, that's another. Again, I'll back up. Like you mentioned before about faking it till you make it, and that's one now. Like, yeah, I don't like that. Like you said, it's just not congruent with me. But for so many years, I had this, I don't know, cocksure, bulletproof, I don't know, persona that I'd put on as though I knew what I was doing and honestly, it was such bullshit. I suppose to a lot of other people, maybe I had them fooled into thinking I knew what I was talking about. But me, it was crippling me. I was putting myself through such anguish because I thought, I cannot live up to these standards that I'm making out like, like that I'm capable of. It was awful. So yeah, like what you're saying there, I'm hearing it as you're going on, and it sounds so simple. Do you know what I mean? But if I say now, all right, I want to be the next Jordan Peterson, let's say that sounds like a massive thing. And you're like, oh, fuck, no. And we are wired for protection rather than connection.
Yeah, we are.
But when you break it down into its component parts, it doesn't sound as daunting. Yeah, it's still a big thing. Let's have it right. I mean, you've got big goals. It needs big work. But each bit, you're not going to get from 0 to 100 in just that one step. And I think that's the thing.
And it's interesting what you say about it being simple. Yeah. But I think unrealistic is actually okay. But we just have to pull it back. So I'm one of those people. I am a dreamer. So when I got told recently to be more realistic about my goals, and I was like, no, I don't want to, because if I'm realistic about my goals, I don't mean the goal itself unrealistic. I think the realistic expectation in getting it like that. That's where I was going. And that is completely different. But going back to what you said about like the framework, when you said it's simple, for a long time I was like, this is almost like too simple. And then I'm like, hang on a minute, simple and easy are two different things.
Yeah.
So the process of it and the framework is exceptionally simple, but navigating it is not easy because we're gonna be uncomfortable doing it, and we're gonna meet version of ourselves. But yes, I completely agree with you. It's people. I saw something on Instagram the other week, and it said, people see people achieving things, and all of a sudden they think that they became an overnight success, but actually there might have been 10 years before that process. And there are so many people that give up because they want something. And now we mentioned AI earlier on, we live in a world where things are like this. We have to be patient with doing it. We have to connect in with that inner knowing, and sometimes we can divert with things because we might decide that we want to start going towards a particular vision, and then actually kind of go, I'm not really sure that aligns with me anymore. It's okay to pivot, but I still believe that we'll have gained skills going down that particular road that we need to then go down this one. Everything that we experience equips us with the next version of whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. No, I did an episode recently, and it was about making friends with the grind. Because like you say, people see the result. They don't see the grind that it takes to get there. But like you've mentioned before, a lot of times it's the journey. And so these little steps that you take along the way, you might see something else that's more you and takes you off to a certain other path. You had this idea of, that's my goal, and you're barreling forward. You're not paying attention to all the little things, and there's so much you can miss. So no, I like where you're at. So I mean, well, if I can ask, as we start to bring this one home, what would you want your biggest takeaway to be from this episode? I know that there's a lot that's there, but what would be your crystallizing point from today? What do you want people to hear?
It would be that fear is not a stop sign, it is a doorway to expansion. Because I think so many of us, when we experience the fear, we think it's the stop. And actually, think of it as being a doorway. I'm on one side of the doorway. I'm aware that I'm feeling something right now. But actually, on the other side of that doorway, through that fear, because it's just a tunnel, is a version of the other side of me that is closer towards who she wants to be, how he wants to live, how they want to be moving through life. So that is my biggest thing. Fear is not a stop sign. It is a doorway to expansion.
Fantastic. I love that. Well, what's coming up next for you in the immediate future? What's the next things you've got lined up?
So my goals this year was about using my voice. So rather than, when people start out, I think that's another thing in chapters, we tend to go towards like the financials. And I was like, I'm very fortunate that because I have another business, it's about how can I use my voice? So lots more podcasts. I've got a year 11 graduation in a few weeks, which I feel really privileged to be able to go and be their keynote speaker at. Awesome. Because I just think they are at year 11 on the cusp of an identity expansion. I have a few festivals and things around. I just love talking and using my voice to support people. And one of the things for me that enables me to use my voice is to hopefully say something that makes just one person, if one person can listen to this and one person does something different, then that's worth using my voice for. I do online sessions. So if anyone has enjoyed today, I do what's called intentional pause sessions. So every few weeks, I just run a session where we just get to be, where we get to connect in, we do some reflection, we do some meditation, and just pause. Just pause, because then we get so carried away with all of the doing. It's about bringing people back in and just connecting within. If anyone wants to reach out and ask any questions, I tend to hang out a lot on Instagram. And other than that, let's just see what the next chapter holds, because as I mentioned earlier, from one week to the next, I'm just navigating the unknown, embodying my own theory, deciding, is this going to take me closer towards the vision that I've got and the person that I want to be and the difference that I want to make.
That's lovely. No, I love that. And I'll put links to everything in the show notes and what have you, because I really do like your fear theory. Like I said, when I say it's simple, I really don't want to sound dismissive, because I don't mean that at all. I mean,
usually
I think it sounds like to me that it takes quite a bit of the overwhelm out, because I suppose, manageable chunks to a task. Do you know what I mean? I've got an essay, it's like 10,000 words. That does sound like a lot, but I break it down into its chapters and its relevant parts. 1,000 words, that's a couple of hours, no problem. So I don't know, it's my own mental shift maybe, and that's sort of what I got from it. So, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for sharing. It's been really lovely hearing about this. And I suppose I like the personal bit, the origin story, that it started out from your vision when you were young and you've seen it through and moved it on to something else. So it's really inspiring to hear. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you. And also, thank you again out there for listening. As always, I appreciate your support. Like Becky mentioned before, I'm also on Instagram under Social Harmony Talk. I will post show links in addition to selfies, upcoming episodes, things like that. But I'll look to launch a new episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube every Monday at 6 o'clock New Zealand time. So if I can ask you to follow, like, share, comment, just get involved, do the things. I absolutely love that. If you want to join me for an episode, have a conversation, please sing out, get in touch, and we'll sort something out. But for now, look after yourselves, keep talking, take care. Thanks for listening. And there we go.